Hi guys, welcome back to our spooky season episode. Yay! October's done! It's finished! No more fucking
Very
shitty
exciting.
months. But we thought we would today, and for all those tuning in on YouTube, we're going to pumpkin paint. We got our pumpkins ready. You can see full effects and full essentially pictures on our Instagram. But we thought we'd do an activity while we talk to you guys today, just because we're getting ready and we're celebrating the end of this long month. This very, very long, very tedious month.
Yeah.
Where the moon's been angry at us and it's not been great.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd bring you along. Let's do something fun. Let's do something wholesome. We'll end the month off happily.
On a happy, wholesome activity.
Yeah, and enjoy some
therapeutic painting.
Yeah, because sometimes that's all you really need in life. Just do something.
I actually carved a pumpkin the other day for the first time in my whole life, and it was so much fun. It was like, I did like a tiny little one, and I shared it with someone else. Mm-hmm. But like, it was so fun, and it was so cute, and I was like, oh, it's such a fun activity. How have I waited till I've been 24 years old to carve a pumpkin? I think it depends on like how you feel about carving them, though. I personally don't love scooping up like the guts and gore of a pumpkin. And I say guts and gore, it is just pumpkin filling. But I'm like, I've never enjoyed that bit. And then you have to like scrape it down to a thing. But I don't know if I've just grown up in a very like, if we're doing something, we're going to do it right kind of family. So then like you're doing it, but it's almost like it becomes like a chore to do. Because you're like, when can I carve it? When can I carve it? And it's like you get to eventually carving, you're like, why is this so much effort? And you're like, oh. I feel like, the one that we did was probably like this size.
That could be the issue because me and my family used to do like big
pumpkins. I think the big one would be worse because like there's so much. Whereas like this took like 2 seconds to like clear out. Yeah. So it was so little.
Oh, fair enough then. Maybe that's a trick to it. Yeah. Small pumpkin to the win. Yeah. But we decided to paint ours today just because we wanted to avoid
less messy.
Yes. Well, we say that. We'll see. We'll see how messy this gets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I hope you look forward to listening to the rest of this episode. And yeah, do
we have to describe what the pumpkin looks like?
I don't know.
Not now, when we're done.
Oh, no, we're not going to describe it to you guys. I think we're just going to get you to check it out on our Instagrams and watch our YouTube videos. Because obviously it's a sneak peek for those who actually like want to tune in properly and see what we paint and what we create. So if you want to see the ending surprise for that, tune into the YouTube and give it a watch.
Yeah, I guess kind of in line with the whole therapy painting thing, discussing part of the reason why it's been such a hard month is it seems that breakups are in the air in October.
Oh yeah, and oddly specific breakups, but yes.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, like I know like 3 people who've gone through a breakup, not including myself. 3 other people. Yeah, myself being the 4th that have gone through a breakup this month. Damn, which is weird. Although I don't actually know if mine was this month or not.
I think it counts.
Yeah, I don't know. But as in like in this time period, which is kind of weird.
It does feel like a lot all at once for something that's meant to be what's that thing? What's that season called?
Spooky season?
No, ignore me. Cuddling season?
Cuffing season.
Cuffing season.
I know, I was actually having this conversation the other day and they were like, why is everyone breaking up? I thought it was cuffing season. But no, apparently it's not. But yeah, so I got broken up with. I guess I don't know. How to start
in a roundabout way. It's like Kate is like soft drop that.
Yeah,
as well as all the house stuff and stuff that was going on. We were kind of
One of the things that went wrong this month was that. Yeah. And I've been dealing with it, I guess, kind of as well as anyone can deal with something that wasn't necessarily their choice to happen.
That's true. And also something that wasn't caused by anything in particular. Yeah.
I think that's kind of like, I don't know, like I've thought a lot about it, like different kinds of breakups. And like, obviously, like I've had friends who've like been cheated on or have cheated on or like had some massive big thing that has happened which caused their relationship to end. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of like there was no kind of one major thing that happened. And I'm kind of like, I don't know what's an easier breakup to deal with. Like I've never been cheated on, so I can't say how that feels or like what it's like ending a relationship after being cheated on or having cheated on. Like I've never been in that position. Yeah. But I'm kind of like I have thought, like, do you think it's easier to end on a relationship on a bad note? Because it's like, at least you don't then like reminisce, because it's kind of like it's been tainted, or like do you think that's worse? Like, I don't know.
I think moving on wise, it's probably harder to get that closure, which, as a reference for everyone listening / watching, I think closure is something that you create within yourself. I don't think any person can give you closure. I think closure is something you form in your own mind and your own perspective. If you think this is done and you know it's done, I think it's a self-awareness thing rather than someone else can help form that closure. So I think in that sense, I think it's probably harder when it's something that was not out of the blue, but something that wasn't caused by one thing. Because at least if you can kind of be like, this is the reason why, and I've got closure, like you get that quicker. Because the reason this happened is because this. Now, I don't know if people struggle with it a bit more because it's like, well, why would he do that? Or why would she do that? And I don't know. I don't know if that's something that keeps people up and they're like, oh, but like that's what's worse about it. And that's why I can't find anything, because I don't know why someone would do that. But part of me thinks it's worse to have gone through just like everything was okay and nothing bad actually happened, because I think that's harder to move on from, because you're kind of like, but why?
Yeah, so it's like it kind of leaves it a little bit more open-ended, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think like overall, for me, it's been like, it has been a lot, and it's been really confusing as well. Like I feel like, I don't know, you watch like breakups in like movies or TV shows, and like I've been through breakups before, and like every time it's kind of like you think, oh, like I've been through this before, like like I now know how to deal with it. But there's so many like other confusing things that happen, and it's like one day you'll be like, oh wait, actually today like I'm pretty happy, and the next day it's like the whole world's ended again, and you're like, oh no, never mind, like I'm not happy. And then it's like there's so many ups and downs, and like so many people like telling you so many different things, and it's just like it's so hard to kind of get your own perspective of it, I guess, because it's like, obviously, which is the normal thing, which I've done as well, is like when you go through a breakup, you're always like my friend, like, oh my god, but like you're so amazing, you're so smart and so beautiful, so funny, or whatever. You like fucking like boost the shit out of this person, because you're like, obviously they're pretty low. But then it's like in a way that doesn't really help, because it's like, but if I am all these things, like I clearly am not, because otherwise he would have stayed. And I feel like that's,
I get that,
such like one of those like self-love things that you need to kind of come to on your own terms, because you can be all those things and also not be the person for them.
I think it's hard because like, so I am the world's probably like worst hype woman in that sense, because I think my friends can do no wrong. I genuinely think every one of you is perfect, and that is life. Like, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But I also think there's a difference in relationships, the one that I have with you versus someone that like a boyfriend would have with you. If that makes sense. So like, whereas I think like the sun and moon can like rise and shine against you, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's my friend. And she's great. I probably don't experience the same things being as a friend of yours than say a boyfriend would experience. So I think it's a harder perspective, because obviously, and I get it, like all I ever want to do with my friends if they're going through a hard time is remind them that they're the most amazing people I know. But you're right, at the same time, it's kind of like you're getting then conflicting thoughts with like, but if I'm so amazing, why did this not work out? Like, what went wrong there then? Because I'm being told left, right, and center, I'm like the dog's bollocks. Like, I'm just the best.
And I think it's like the whole thing of, so like during this whole time, it's that thing of sometimes you do just have to think that it's no, at the end of the day, like everyone has flaws, and everyone is also like, we kind of spoke about this when we were like talking about like for your like that date that you're going to go on, like it's kind of that thing of like every relationship is a new relationship, and every person you're dating is a new person that comes with their own baggage and their own trauma, and your trauma also kind of, and like your baggage and your insecurities kind of materialize in different ways depending on the person you're dating. Because like they could reassure one part of you and you're like, oh, okay, well, like, I don't know, in my relationship before, this part was never secure, but now that part's secure, which has somehow brought out this whole other side of me that is insecure, and like a side you weren't expecting. And then it's like there's all these like new things that you find out about yourself and whatever. And I think like for me personally, I am a person that has a lot of anxiety and gets kind of stressed out really easily, like panic attacks, like all that stuff. I'm someone who's dealt with a lot of mental health issues in my past, and like still I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. And I thought, like, in a way I was kind of like had been doing so good for so long that I didn't even realize I was falling back into the same patterns.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying mental health is a reason to leave anyone, because if you love people, you like don't leave them, because they're like, that's not the message I'm putting out there. But I also understand, like, there comes a time where, as the other half of that, it's so hard to constantly be dealing with someone who isn't helping themselves, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I got myself into this like spiral of not looking after my own mental health and not taking my own care into my own hands. And that, like, that's not fair on anyone. Like, I should be putting as much effort as I can into helping myself as someone else is for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like that's not like necessarily something I did wrong. Like, that's not like, I mean, I don't know if this makes sense, but it's not like it's not like that's this big fuck up that I made. Like, I'm only human. I did make a mistake that, like, at the end of the day kind of spiralized into a whole bunch of other stuff. And then, you know, we broke up and the relationship ended. And it's not like that's now something that I'm going to be like, oh, like, I'm so useless, I'm so bad, like, I'm so like fucked up, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's something that I can now be like, okay, my insecurities and my anxieties formed this.
Yeah.
And now I'm aware of them because I kind of wasn't aware of them. And I think it's also hard because, like, I never really spoke about it to people so that no one could tell me to be aware of them, if that makes sense. Like, I kind of like dealt with it in my own head, thinking I was dealing with it, but wasn't dealing with it. And now that I've been forced to face it, I've been like, oh shit, I was not dealing with any of that.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I've always been a very big advocate of speaking to absolutely anybody about anything. And I know that probably becomes quite bad because some people also go through their own stuff, so maybe they can't help you through certain times and certain like points in your life. But I always found, like, with me, if I was going through anything, even just speaking to like a friend on the phone, it doesn't even be about like what it is I'm going through, but sometimes it's even just like a voice note which is spiraling out. I know by the time I finish this conversation, at the end of that voice note, I'm suddenly like, I'm okay now. I knew what was going on and like I knew what was happening. And I think it's hard when, like, especially in a relationship, you have another person and then that person is your go-to person.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, because I've only ever had friendships and like I've had situationships but never got to far enough where I would tell them how I was feeling, like, emotionally, it would be very much like they're still on the outskirts of my life and my friends are the ones who hear everything, if that makes sense. But like, I understand the difference. Like, with a relationship is, no, that person is who you're telling everything to, if that makes sense. So then suddenly, like, to not have that person or like that support because like things have ended, like, I can imagine it's so much harder then.
Yeah, I think it has definitely been like an adjustment period. I think for me, it's in a way kind of been like solidified my own belief in my friendships to be like, actually, not that I didn't think I could rely on you guys, but like now I know
you guys are useless bitches and I couldn't trust you with fucking anything.
But like now that I'm like it has kind of made me realize that I don't need to be relying on just one person or on just myself. I can rely on other people. And like, I do think it's important actually to rely on other people, because if you have just one person, like, even therapists need therapists. Like, you can't just put all your shit on one person and expect them to just handle it. Like, that's a lot to expect of anyone, you know.
Why do you think I get trauma dumped on so much, Caitlin, by strangers constantly? Because I think they see me and they're like, this is another person I could talk to instead of talking to like my family members or my friends.
Dealing with the actual trauma.
Yeah, I'm like, this girl wants to hear it. And I'm like, this girl does not want to hear it, but it's okay. Tell me anyway. I mean, that's my red flag, is I let people tell me this stuff. And I go, and what did that make you feel?
Yeah.
But no, I think I will stand here and I will give you full credit, because I think the way everything that has been going on, especially with like how stressful this month has been and how essentially how everything sort of like hit us all at once. That makes sense. Like, I think you've gone about this in a very like healthy mindset way, that you kind of like saw it as like an opportunity for growth and to like build within like friendships and see what could like essentially what life is, and like experience that and like not be like at first obviously being scared to, but then actually like embracing that's
I think it's kind of one of those things where like if I would never have been able to, like, I don't know, like, I don't think I would have, or it would have taken a lot longer for me to have figured out myself. Not that I have now figured out myself, but as in like I'm in a much healthier place with myself than I had been for probably the past like 3 or 4 months. Like I think without realizing how anxious I had been, and I was like taking it out on people, and it wasn't fair on them for me to, because I was like so confused with how I was feeling and so like almost unaware that that's what was happening. But I was like having like freakouts about stuff, which looking back, I'm like, those were the stupidest things to freak out about. Like, why was I so anxious and stressed? But like, it wasn't those events. It was like my own head was so chaotic and so turbulent at the time. And I think it's like partially due to like how stressed I was at work. And then like, there's just been a lot going on the past few months in general. And I think instead of actually sitting down and like dealing with myself and being like, okay, I'm so burnt out right now, I'm so anxious and whatever, I just kind of kept pushing it down and then finding other things wrong in my life to be like, oh, this must be what it is. Like, this must be the cause of my anxiety. And it wasn't. And I like kind of just created problems where they weren't problems and started arguments where there didn't need to be an argument, because I was like, oh, well, this must be what's wrong. But like, in actuality, it was just the fact that I needed to like take 5 fucking seconds to breathe and be like, whoa, okay, maybe I need a therapist. maybe that's the core issue.
Maybe I need somebody else to help me here.
Yeah. And like, I guess it's like, part of me is really sad that this is how I had to find out. But I'm also like, if this is what's making him happy, and if it's allowing me to grow, then that's okay. Like, I think it's like a lot of podcasts I've been listening to, a lot of like videos I've been watching. It's all about like, at the end of the day, you just have to just accept it for what it is. Like, you can't keep fighting it or finding reasons for it. And at the end of the day, for me, what has really helped is to be like, well, if he's happy and he's feeling more himself and he's feeling better, and I'm feeling like I can figure myself out. Like, I don't know if I do feel more myself. Like, in some settings, I think I do. And in some scenarios, I'm like, oh, like this is how I used to be, and I've missed that person. But overall, like, I'm still figuring myself out. And I think, like, as long as the decision was made that makes at least one of us happy, and then the other one being me figuring myself out, like, I think that's a pretty good outcome.
You know what, I agree. It's like when you talked about earlier, like, what would be the worst case, like, what's worse is like to go through something where something has happened, or go through something where it's for no one's fault. Not their fault here. And I think, if anything, like, I kind of take it back, because in that sense, having an outcome where you know that in order for everyone to kind of leave the situation a bit happier is a case of like, yeah, you might be sad for a little bit, but I know that in the long run you'll be able to find yourself, and I'll have time to find myself. Like, I can understand why like things end. And I think it's a lot harder at this stage in life as well, because we're kind of going through a very different part where you've got people getting married, you've got people having like kids, you've got people having new jobs, you've got people moving out the house. Like, everyone's at a very different stage of their lives. And it's just that awkward thing of it. In a weird way, it kind of feels like a bit of a rat race. It's like, oh, everyone's always doing something different to somebody else, and so you kind of feel like you should be on like this like momentum, this pathway and stuff. But like, at the same time, when things end, that doesn't mean it's like this massive reset and you're behind the rat pack anymore. Like, it's like, it's now just a case of, okay, well, now I've got this time to figure out what my life is like now. I mean, I guess in the sense of like with you, because you met at university and then moved on to like the adulthood bit, it's now like you're almost at like a new phase. So it's not like really like shifted the tides by not being together, if that makes sense. If that, like, I feel like it's coming across quite mean. I don't mean it in a mean way. I think it mean it more in the sense of, I think if it had been like 5-6 years of the relationship and then it suddenly this had happened, you'd then be like, well, I lived half my adult life with you. And I'm not sure how to process this now. Whereas like, you're only 24 now? Yes. She's 24 now, lads. But you're only 24. So then realistically, what you have experienced with him has been like your growing years, which is probably quite nice, and probably what he came into your life for that reason, to like help you grow in that sense. And then you learn a lot from the relationship that you've had, and I guess then moving forward you'll know what you loved having with him, but also now what future wise you would need. too.
Yeah.
I do think everyone comes into your life for a reason. Like I said, I've not been in like a relationship. I've had situationships where I think have taught me a bit about myself, and I know like certain things about certain people will drive me to a point where I'm like, oh, that's not how I want to be as a person. So I couldn't be with someone who does this or does that. So I do think everyone comes into your life to
Every
teach you
relationship
something.
you have, whether it's friendship or romantic, teaches you a lesson about the type of people you want to surround yourself with.
Oh, 100%.
And I think, it's just like, I think, like you were saying with the whole closure thing, at the end of the day, if you sit down and think till the end of the earth as to why things broke up or how you could fix things, like, you're not actually going to get anywhere in life doing that. Like, you, like, sitting down and being like, oh, what if I did this, this, and this, and this? Or what if I changed that about myself? Or like, what if I acted this way instead? Like, those are all what if scenarios. And the only thing you can control is how you focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you can't control what anyone else is doing, what anyone else is thinking, how anyone else is feeling, but you can control how you feel about yourself and about who you are. And I think that's been my biggest kind of like almost the thing keeping me sane a lot of the times throughout this past month is like, you know what? Yes, maybe I'm having a tough time. And yes, maybe I'm sad or stressed or anxious, but also that's okay to be feeling these things. Like, you also don't need to be super happy about everything. You can just be sad and anxious and stressed. Like, it's okay, but also try and maybe work out where all that stems from. Like, and I think that's been a big thing for me, is like doing a lot of self-reflection, a lot of like, why do I have such anxiety in a relationship? Like, why am I such an insecure person in a relationship? Because in my everyday life, I'm not an insecure person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a dependent person in my everyday life. And when I'm like single in the past, like, I have been very independent. I don't rely on people. I don't like necessarily, like, I don't really care what people do. Like, I'm not someone who needs to have a response from people. Like, you know, I take 7 weeks to reply to people sometimes. Like, it's not like I don't have this urgency, but then as soon as I'm in a relationship, I become so anxious and insecure, and I don't understand what the trigger of that is. Like, why do I lose that independence and that part of myself in a relationship? And I think for me, moving forward, like, I need to take the time and the like time being alone to figure that out, to be like, why am I so worried about being in a relationship? Like, what is it about being in a relationship that scares me so much? Kind of thing.
The difference trigger and like, why can you be so quite comfortable with like friends?
And like so secure in my friendships and so secure in like my family relationships. Like, I can go like months without speaking to like my brothers, but like, obviously it's different because they're my brothers. But it's not like I'm
you
like,
have to love me forever.
But I'm not like, oh my God, do they still like me as a person? Like, I'm like, obviously they do.
Yeah.
But like, why do I, I guess that's kind of the thing which I'm kind of trying to figure out at the moment, is what is in my head that is triggering this fear and insecurity in a relationship. Like, why am I so worried that, like, I don't get concerned that my friends don't like me? I'm just like, oh yeah, they're my friends. Obviously they like me. But like, why don't I have that self-reassurance when it comes to love, kind of thing?
Yeah.
So that's been a process for me. I've started journaling. I now journal every day because my mom told me it would help me.
Oh, just you adding to your like healthy 5 to 9 lifestyle, Caitlin. Honestly, every time you come on this podcast, you're literally like, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm like, I don't do any of it. I just rant to my friends.
Well, you could start journaling.
I don't think I should be alone with my thoughts.
It's actually like, I used to keep a journal. So like back in the day when I went to therapy, they told me I had to have a journal, and I used to keep a journal, and I used to write everything down, like good, bad. Sometimes I didn't know what to write, so I'd draw pictures, or sometimes like there was this one page that I just colored the entire thing in black, and I was like, whoa, it's a dark day. But anyway, like, sometimes I think it is just a way of like, you know, kind of you're saying with like, when you message your friends, you voice note them.
Yeah.
And you let out everything. Yeah. That's what journaling is. It's like you just let out all of your thoughts and feelings from that day, and you put it on a piece of paper. And then like, as you like formalize it by writing it down, you kind of then are like, at the same time, rationalizing and logicalizing, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
All these thoughts and feelings. And then it's also like, it's a way of just like, because sometimes the whole reason for me that I get so anxious or whatever is because I don't let it out. and I'll think a thought, and my thought will be like insane. Like I don't know. I'll be like, oh, I don't know, like Isla's home 2 minutes late. She must have gotten hit by a bus and is dead. And then like I'll think that thought, and then part of me will be like, that's a stupid thought. Isla's not dead. But then I'll be like, but what if she is? And then because I haven't let it out and I haven't said anything, like I haven't called you or like gone to Anita and been like, oh my God, is Isla dead? Like I haven't told anyone. I'll just like, the thought will literally just like fester in my head and grow and grow and grow until I'm literally like in a panic because I'm like, Isla is dead. And then you'll walk in the door 2 seconds in, I'm like, wow, that was silly.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Everything is
okay. It's like if you write it down, also you don't have to worry about anyone like judging you because no one's going to read it. So you could be as dark as you wanted, or as like cringy as you wanted, or as mushy or whatever. Like, I don't know, say you went on a first date and you were like, oh my God, I'm in love with this man, but you don't want to tell me because you're going to be like, Caitlin's going to be like, this is the first date.
Mrs. Isla.
Draw the hearts, do like the A+ question mark, like, you know, do the whole thing. Like literally just, you can be your fullest emotion in a book, write your fullest feelings down and no one will see it. So it doesn't matter.
That's true.
It is kind of weird, like the first few times, like I was like, do I start like Dear Diary? Like this is so weird. I haven't started like that, for anyone wondering. You don't say Dear Diary in it. But.
Just give it, I don't know, like I think I tried, I really wanted to, and this is so like, I know, so emo of me or whatever, but I was like, I really want to be like the Vampire Diaries and like be like Elena, and I want to journal. And then I think I have started, I kid you not, at least 20 different diaries that are all piled up in my room because I got like a couple things in and then I was like, no. And then I just forget. I think I'm so used to, and as emphasis again, I always say this on this podcast, but like I'm a chatter queen through and through. Like I don't think I will ever feel better until like I verbally got it off my chest compared to like writing it down, I think.
But it could also be like a thing that say we got into a fight and you were like, I feel a certain way about you right now, but you don't want to say it to me because you don't want to like offend me,
or like
because you're angry in the moment.
Or speak out into the existence.
And then so like if you write it down, you can then be like, okay, now that I've written it down, let me think a little bit more about like, because you kind of like process the emotion as you write it down, and then when you do speak it out, you're not speaking from a place of anger and hurt. You're speaking from a place of someone who was hurt by something I've done, but you've also rationalized it enough that when you explain it to me, you explain it properly, instead of being like say, I don't know, it was like I'd missed like a coffee date for the 5th time, and instead of being like, you never do this, you never come to this, you never blah blah blah, you would have been like, okay, let me write this down, and then been like, okay, this is what I'm actually upset about. And then you could have been like, can we talk? Like I just feel like sometimes you don't prioritize coffee with me and you would rather go to the gym, and that makes me sad. And I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being like, you never loved me. And I'd be like, whoa, Isla, you always pick your other friends over me. And then I'd be like, no.
God, am I getting a glimpse into like Christmas future here? Like, if someone we're going to turn into, I'm like, and I'm going to the gym. And I'm like, she predicted this. She told me she was going to do this on the podcast. I remember that episode.
It's actually just me warning you about our future together. But I just think it's for me, that's helped a lot to be like, and like I was saying, like these past couple of months, like arguments and stuff I've started, it's not like, that's actually not why I was upset. And I didn't know that because I have no way of releasing my feelings to anyone or anything. Whereas if I had actually just sat down and written down my feelings, I probably would have been like, oh no, that's not why I'm actually upset.
Yeah.
It's actually to do with this. And then I would have been able to think about the fact that that's why I'm upset. So then I could have verbalized it better so that there would have been a better understanding, and it wouldn't come from a place of me being anxious about something and attacking.
Yeah, like coming from I guess the instant reaction rather than being like let's have a think about it. It's like I always said about was it Bridgerton season 3? Like, that stupid cow. Fucking go to sleep. Sleep on it before you decide to ruin the lives of your like best friend's family. Like, that's
exactly.
That's your future husband there. Don't be a dick. What are you doing? But no, I fully get your point. I think everyone's got different coping mechanisms in that sense. Like I said, I understand your point of view of like, but writing it down gets you off your chest. But sometimes I just have to like rant about it to somebody who understands. Like, honestly, even if it's my mother, and I'm like,
but also you can rant and write. Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And
I'm not a writer. As much
as you could also do a verbal diary.
Part of me did see this, and I know this can sound really bad that this is where it came from. But then I was watching my Ghost Whisperer show. If anyone has seen it,
is all your healthy habits from series?
It's all from TV shows.
Nice.
But like for what one of the girls did, and it's how they spotted the ghost, was that she used to do a video blog. And I was kind of like, and then it was like her video diary, and she kept it on a computer. And I was kind of like, that seems like a smart idea, because I'm going to talk to, essentially when I voice note, I'm talking to myself anyway.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need someone to hear it, because by the time I get to the end of my thoughts, I'm like, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you with this, but like, I'm now fine. I just need to get it off my chest. And then also like, just has it.
If you write it, I mean, if you say it or write it or whatever, and then it's still bothering you, then you can be like, okay, no, like I do need to talk to them about it.
Me just sitting you down and being like, give me 2 seconds while I find the page in my diary.
Let me just play this voice note. Wait 1 second.
I just want you to watch this. I'm just going to leave the room, and then you can understand how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Sometimes I do like feel as though like if someone just found my diary, it would be so much easier than me having to explain my feelings.
That's
like
okay.
Maybe when I go to therapy, and this because it's so fucking hard to get a therapist in England, but when I eventually find a therapist, I'm just going to give them my diary and be like, you want to know what I'm thinking?
That can be your consultation. You can literally be like, and they're like, we're consulting with you to see how you are. And I was like, oh, no, I don't need to come in. I'll post you the diary.
Yeah, I'll send you this.
You let me know how you feel after you've read it, and then we can go from there, please. Thank you. I've already done half your job for you. Yeah. We're okay. But no, I mean, I don't know. I do think it's one of those things of everyone finds different coping mechanisms. Like, I think if you're someone prone to write, I mean, like you said, you used to have a blog, so I think you're someone who is more prone to like writing.
I do find writing, because I don't know, I'm kind of like bad at it from the point of view of like I have to think a lot when I write. It does help, because I think I'm a very reactionary person when it comes to emotions. Like I feel a lot of emotions like a very quick, like in a short expanse of time or whatever it is. Like I'll get very angry or very annoyed or whatever very quickly in a reactionary way. So like you could say something and I'd immediately react. And then after it's happened, I'll be like, oh, I didn't actually feel that way. It was just like a reaction. And like now that I've taken 2 seconds to think about it, that's not actually what I was feeling.
Yeah, that's not how I feel. I think it was.
Yeah. And then sometimes I also like get annoyed at something that hasn't even happened yet because I think it's going to happen. And I'm in a bad mood because I'm like, well, this is going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. I'm in a bad mood because I'm like, well, why did I think the worst? Like, I'm just a horrible person. Like, whereas like if I thought that you were going to do something bad and wrote it down and then didn't, like I would have got it out of my system, wouldn't have been bothered by it. And then when it didn't happen, I could write in my diary like, wow, I'm a bitch. That never happened.
And this was,
and then like,
just like tally at the end being like, times when I thought I was a bitch.
Yeah, a lot. But yeah, I feel like for me, because I'm a reactionary person and because I need to learn to take time before saying things, it's helped a lot. Not that I've had a moment where there hasn't been a time when I should have spoken or shouldn't have spoken. Yeah. And instead I'd written it in my diary, because when I say I started journaling, it's been like 3 days. So in the last 3 days, I haven't really put my theory to like put it in practice. Yeah. But I do feel like it's good for me because I can be very reactionary and I need to learn to actually sit with my feelings to understand where they're coming from. Because often when it's like, I don't understand what it is I'm feeling or why I'm feeling it, so I'll just attack. Yeah. And I'll just be like, you're a terrible person. I wouldn't say you're a terrible person, but I'd be like, you always fuck up for these reasons, without actually sitting with my thoughts and feelings and being like, okay, actually that's not the most productive way to start a conversation. Because as soon as you start a conversation in an accusatory tone, the person's going to become defensive straight away, and you're not going to get any like constructive conversation out of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely told you a fair few conversations, not on my hand, but having to friends that haven't started the best way, personally. But you're right. I think if like people actually took the time to, I guess, understand what it is they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. But then I think it's also acknowledging it. Like I know sometimes I can have some frustrations, but then in the moment I do think it's like a very much, why is this happening to me kind of vibes. And I don't think that's not an uncommon thing. I think a lot of people will get into that headspace of being like, but why is it me? Why is this? And then I think it's very easy to like get so absorbed into how you're feeling and you kind of forget what maybe the other person that's forcing you to feel like that might also be going through.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think also like often for me, this has kind of just turned into like me shitting on myself. But
Which, by
for
the
me,
way,
I'm
there's
also
nothing for you to shit on, by the way.
Well, it's just like general. I mean, I'm not like when I say me shitting on myself, like these are my flaws. If anyone's listening and wanting to know my red flags, I'm laying them all out for you right now.
Don't worry, eventually if you make a Hinge profile, we'll just put this episode on.
Yeah.
We'll just link the episode up bio and be like, if you ever want to know.
Just so you can know all my red flags at once. This is who I am. But like, I also can be kind of selfish when it comes to emotions, because I'll be like, I'm feeling this way, so we need to fix this.
Yeah.
And then I won't think about the fact that like, because I'm upset, and like I said, like, because I've reacted immediately to something you've said or done, I'll be like aggressive towards you, accusatory or whatever, like kind of back you into a corner. And then as soon as you say you're upset, I'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, because it's obviously about me.
One emotion.
Yeah, you think you can feel sad right now too? That's crazy. Like, no, like, so then I think that's why I need to take the second to be like, let me actually think this through and think through like why I'm feeling this. I think it all basically boils down to like my anxiety not being held in check for so long. Is like I actually just had such high like cortisol levels. Like I was kind of in a fight or flight situation, so I was so ready to like fight all the time.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, I needed to just self-regulate and be like, okay, I'm feeling like this. Maybe I should have this conversation, and before I do that, I should have written down some thoughts and like calmed myself instead of like going into the conversation already angry.
Yeah.
Because like everyone always says like you can't, like no good comes from starting a conversation angry or drunk, because that's also what I do. I'd get drunk and then I'd be like, oh, we need to talk about this, which obviously it's not a fair time to discuss anything when you're drunk. Like I should, like those are things that like I need to be more self-aware of myself. Yeah. And more conscious of also what me doing these things is doing to other people. Yeah. Anyway, so that's been my self-growth over the past month. I have also become a very big advocate for CBD oil, which everyone at work will know because I talk about it all the time.
You're like the vegan version of what CBD is.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
You know, everyone should be doing CBD.
If you aren't taking CBD oil in your day-to-day routine, what are you doing with your life?
Mm-hmm. Nothing really. If you're just fucking your life up. But
wait, what?
Whereas if you're not, when you were like, what if you're not taking CBD? What are you doing? And I was like, clearly just fucking your life up.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about like yourself personally, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, I just get fucked up. Yeah, me. That's how.
Just like an alcoholism.
I know.
To the max.
just absolutely just drunk every night before bed because I'm like, how else?
I can't deal with my feelings.
I can't be alone. So glug glug glug. Here I go.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the way I would say it is, and I know you. I mean, I don't think anything you said has been shit talking yourself. I would.
Yeah, but that's because you see me with rose tinted glasses.
Because I mean, I can see you without my glasses, Caitlin, and I still think you're perfect. So I just think I also understand when I say that about my friends that they're all perfect, which you all are, and I stand by this. I also understand like to be human is to err. If that makes sense, like you are going to err, you're human, and like how everyone deals with things is different. And it may be okay. It's a case of like I see how a friend reacts, and I wouldn't react that way. That doesn't mean they're also not the best person I know. It's just more everyone has different emotional bandwidth, emotional like reactions to things. Like, I mean, it's like what we talked about fight or flight. I freeze. Like that's not even an option there, but I like freeze and I'd be kidnapped within like a heartbeat because I'm like I wouldn't react in this scenario like fast enough. But that's my reaction to like trauma. If that makes sense. Like anything bad's to happen, and I'm like, well, that's it, the end. Yeah. Which I know a lot of people would be like, well, that's a bit unhealthy. You need to figure out one or the other because nothing good's going to come out of you doing nothing. Yeah. Like, it's true. However, it's a self-taught thing. Whereas like same with like how you deal with emotions. It's how you have self-taught yourself. No one ever teaches you how to deal with them. Yeah. Really? This
is why therapy should be mandated to children, because or like the education should be more suited at mental health, because like no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Like everything's so confusing, and like it can be scary because you're like, how am I meant to be reacting to trauma? And also when I say trauma, like I don't even mean something massively terrifying has to have happened in your life. Like people get trauma from what seems like very small things. It could be like problems with like friendships growing up, or maybe you weren't that connected to your parents, or maybe like one time when you were little, like, I don't know, you saw a car accident, no one even died, but it freaked you out so much, and you're like, oh my God, life's so short, we could die at any point, and then for the rest of your life, I don't know, you like live life on the edge. I don't know, like small things could happen in your childhood, and when you're young, you don't know how to process these things and deal with these things, so it like manifests into the baggage that we all carry today. And I think that's also a part about being in a relationship is like you need to be able to handle your own baggage, but then also allow yourself to give some of your baggage to someone else and take on some of their baggage.
And I think I would say I think growing up you always kind of thought everything was 50-50 with another person. Like you think, oh, if you do this for me, I do this for you, and that's how it works. But then I think having grown up and then witnessed my friends being in relationships, I've kind of realized that maybe not all the time it's 50-50, but it's about knowing yourself well enough to know that, like, okay, maybe these past couple of months I've been giving 80 and they've been giving 20, but sometimes people need that. But it's about also knowing your own boundaries for it. I think I worry because I do take on a lot from a lot of people, which I love being that person for people. I think it's a hard thing to explain because my mum was just like, why did everyone tell you all their problems? Like, I don't know, Mum, but it makes me feel a bit better because I'm like, it's nice that I could be that person for somebody, like be there for them. But at the same time, I then do hit my emotional wall fairly sooner then, because it might just be like, oh, a friend's telling me something and they're like, oh, well, you're not really like helping as much, and it's kind of like, oh, I've got like 5 other friends who've told me other things, I'm trying to help everybody at the same time, but like not really prioritizing myself in that scenario. So I do think it's weird because I think we've kind of grown up being like, you should be able to help a friend in need, you should be there for people who you care about, but then never really taught how to set those boundaries without coming across a bit ruder. Does that make sense? Like kind of being like, you know what, actually today I can't help you and I'm so sorry that I can't help you, but I'm kind of dealing with something right now. And it's nothing you can really describe. You can't really be like, my emotional well is full. It needs to be piled out first. But yeah, I think since all we've ever been taught as kids is to like be good people, right? Like I think I've grown up being like, from my grandparents, from my parents, from teachers at school, it's like just be a good person. But at the same time, we were never taught how to like then understand our own limits for things, and that's something you just have to figure out with like age and figure out like.
And also with trial and error, like it kind of links back into the beginning where it's like nothing necessarily has to have gone wrong. It doesn't need to be anyone's fault. But sometimes it's just the fact that like in this one instance, I maybe wasn't my best self towards the end. And like I now know that. And maybe if I'd realized sooner, it would have been different. But like, there's also like, I didn't know. And like, I can't be angry at myself forever for not knowing.
True.
And then also like you said, like I was trying and I thought I was helping, but I actually wasn't helping. Because I didn't know my own limits. And like, I should have known that I'd reached my limit with like the amount of other emotional stress I had going on in my life, that I wasn't coping. But I, like you said, like I've never been taught how to know if I'm coping or not coping, you know? And I think, it's just like those things where like it's going to happen. And at the same time though, like if people are meant to be in your life, friendships, partners, whatever it is, like maybe like if you think about your friends, like you have an argument all the time, but you stay friends because you care about each other, and maybe sometimes you take like a couple of years of not talking or months or whatever, and then you become friends again. Like I feel like
maybe I'm unhealthy then, because I actually don't think I properly argued with any of my friends.
But is that because you keep it all in?
It's because I'm an avoidant attachment style. I also think without realizing, which is weird by the way, I know we're going to stem off into another topic again, but when we talked about avoidant attachment and anxiety attachment, I'm a very anxious individual through and through. Like I am as anxious as they come. Like anything can spiral me. I'm literally like a ball of anxiety all the time, 24/7. And yet when everything's go wrong, you find me like trying to avoid wherever I am. So why is it that I'm an anxious person, but I've got an avoidance attachment style? Whereas it surely makes sense I'd have an anxious attachment style.
No, because it's very much with like how like you deal with stuff. Like it doesn't mean if you're anxious, doesn't mean that avoidants aren't anxious. Like avoidants can be anxious people. And anxious attachment styles can not be anxious people. It's just the way that you react and normally it's to a relationship.
Oh,
like, it's your instance. Like, there are people who are avoiders.
Yeah.
And people who there's people who face things head on, people who don't like conflict, people who are people pleasers, so they will do everything they can to just keep it all happy.
Why have you just mentioned like 3 versions of me right there in a sentence?
But I also think like there's also within avoidance, there's different kind of avoidance styles that are more anxious oriented, and some that are more like this, like, because you have like dismissive and fearful avoidance.
Yeah.
So you could be more of the fearful avoidant, where because you're so anxious, you actually can't deal with it, so you just leave it. And you're afraid to deal with it, so you leave. Whereas like dismissives are just like, they don't know how to deal with it, so they just dismiss everything, and they just like kind of try to keep the peace, and then eventually they just up and go. So it could be like maybe you're anxious avoidant, whatever. Yeah. It's not like one or the other.
Okay, I was giving a vibe that it was like one or the other, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me, because I don't know. I mean, my friends might disagree. I can't think of a time we've had like proper like blowouts. It's just been more like, I guess, discussions. But I think I'm weirdly enough quite a hothead. Like, and I don't know if that comes across. I say weirdly because I don't think people would think that of me, but I think I am a bit. And then when I get very annoyed, I get very annoyed very fast. But then I also understand, like, you know how you said about like, you need to understand what your emotions are coming from.
Yeah.
When I'm annoyed, I will never really say anything, because I'm like, but I need to actually process what it is I'm going through.
See, that is healthy.
And then so I'll like leave it, process it, and then kind of be like, okay, it's either going to be a conversation of being like, look, I'm feeling this way. You haven't meant it. It wasn't intentional, da-da-da. Or I'll be like, you know what, it actually wasn't a big thing. I was just upset about this reason. So then I don't ever bring it up again. Yeah. But the issue with that is that when you never bring something up that maybe has like slightly bothered you, it then keeps happening. And then you're like, how do I bring this up now? Because it seems like a bigger deal than it is. But it's like, but that's just because it's been happening for like a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a thought and then it left. But, I was saying, like, I think obviously don't never bring things up, but you can also understand how to bring it up better if you sit with it. That's just what I need to do, is just sit with things. Yeah. I need to stop being like, you did this, I'm going to react straight away, and I'm going to react probably in a mean way. Because I also know, like, sometimes I can be mean, and I really don't mean to be. Yeah. Like, it just, like, comes out. Like, and then I'm like, oh my God, like, that was such a mean thing, or a mean way of saying it, or a mean way of doing it. Like, I didn't mean to be mean. Yeah. And I'll only realize after I've done it and, like, seen a reaction, and I'm like, oh, that was mean. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be mean. Yeah. So I think sometimes, like, that's why I need to learn to sit with these things, to be like, I need to know why firstly I get triggered so much by certain things. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I need to figure out why I am insecure in a relationship. Like, what is it about it that I get like so scared about? And I think that kind of comes into, you know, figuring out yourself first, because I need to be comfortable to be me by myself, alone in the world. Not in like a sad way. That sounds so depressing. I'm not alone in the world, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I need to be comfortable in my own skin, in my own life, which means that if someone comes into it, I can't be afraid that when they leave, I'll lose everything. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I felt. Yeah. When I was like, my world has now ended. Yeah. I think it is hard when like you have that without realizing. I think every relationship, you do have some codependency there. Like, it'd be weird if you didn't, because you're kind of like, but you do need that other person. That's what they're there for. You like, they're your person. You rely on them, and you like talking to them, and then like they're your person. Whereas I think having never had that, for me, I've almost become so stable within my friendships that I think it'd be hard for a person to come in and be my other person. Yeah. Because I'm like, but I have people. But I have so many people. I don't need you. Yeah, I've got people here. But then I don't know if that's like a healthier thing. I don't know. Like, it could be like maybe that's an unhealthy thing, and I go in and I don't rely on my partner as much because I've got other people. Yeah. I don't think there is any like healthy or unhealthy way of dealing with it until it's happened, and it's how you grow from it. Yeah. I think like obviously everyone has unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy thoughts and whatever, but it's like when faced with the actual consequence of your behavior that was unhealthy, if you then decide, I don't want to be like this anymore, I'm going to help grow myself and work towards things, like, not to toot my own horn, but that is a healthy response to an unhealthy behavior of yourself. Whereas if I had decided, oh no, like I wasn't in the wrong at all, like fuck him, like I'm perfect the way I am, and had just remained exactly the same, that would have been unhealthy. Yeah. Because I did do things wrong and I did react in bad ways. And like, I have to accept that about myself, but that doesn't mean I am like a bad person. It just means I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying my best to grow and learn from it for my own sake.
Yeah.
And then like, that's like a healthy reaction to an unhealthy part of yourself. So I don't think either way is healthy. Like being too codependent or too independent in a relationship, both ways have healthy and unhealthy aspects to it.
Yeah.
And it's just finding a balance between how you handle all of it.
True. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you've given very sound advice there, Caitlin. So
Thank
for
you.
anyone else potentially going through this as well, please take it. I feel like I've yet to experience very many breakups within my friendship groups, but with Kate's, I do think she's done it in the healthiest way. And that's all I can really say on the topic, really. I think, obviously, it's a sad time, and it's hard that you have to go through that when we also had, like, other stuff going on, too.
Yeah. But, you know, they say, when it rains, it pours.
When it rains, this fucking hurricane comes. You know, with the movie Twisted, that was our lives. That was what was going on. I want to
see that movie.
You should. It's very good.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
When did you watch it?
I was home for that weekend when it came out, and I was like, Mum and Dad will go with me. And then it was probably the most frustrating film I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, why?
I don't want to spoil it, so I'll let you watch it and then I'll explain to you why it was the most frustrating. We'll see if you agree. Anyone else who might have thought Twisted was frustrating, please drop a message, because I think I might be alone in this thought, but it really pissed me off. But what was I saying? I was going somewhere with that, and I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we always say, like, probably a fair few times in this podcast, we've started this to help people, like, be there for people who maybe think that they're the only ones going through things. So I'm hoping about that, like, Kate got to discuss what's happened. I mean, I feel bad for this. I feel like I completely veered us off the topic again.
No, I think it was all part of it. Like,
yeah,
it's all about feelings and dealing with stress and emotions and breakups and friendships and relationships. Like, it's all like one and the same, really.
True.
Look at my ghosts.
It's very cute. If you want full effect, go check out the YouTube. Mm-hmm. Plugging it now, like they're not watching it. Hopefully they are. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think the way you've handled it has been like really healthy, and that's all you can do, and you continue to grow, and not to make it like you seem happier, but I think from the breakup till now, you do seem happier. But I think that's normal when you're processing.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously time helps. Yeah. I would say, I don't know if like the term happier is how I would describe it. I think I feel more grounded in who I am.
Yeah.
Because I've like come to realization about a lot of stuff. And I've also been more proactive in helping myself than I maybe have been in the past. So I think in a way it's more just like, and I've been a lot more accepting of things, and I'm accepting the fact that I can't control everything in life.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning, like you have to accept the fact that people are going to feel a certain way or act a certain way or do certain things, and you can't control that. All you can control is how you handle yourself and your feelings. And I think that's what I've really been focusing on. And that's why, like I'd say I'm more grounded in me than I have maybe been for a while.
Yeah. So
like, I don't know if that's necessarily a happier place to be, but it feels like a more secure place to be.
Yeah.
Within myself.
I get that. Right, well, that's the end of this week's episode. For reference, we show pumpkins.
Oh, yeah.
I can't lift mine like Kate can, but...
Yeah. My little ghosts.
We've got little Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, one's missing eyes. Is it still there?
I didn't see that one.
Oh, Kate just wanted one to be blind.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in for another week, guys.
Hope something we said was helpful in some way to your life. Yeah. Even if you're not going through a breakup, it's still good to be okay with who you are. I agree. It's a good lasting statement there, Kate. Yeah. Yes. And happy Halloween. And happy Halloween. Happy late Halloween. We hope you guys had a lovely spooky season and hopefully better Octobers than the two of us. Yeah. And here's to a hopefully happier November. Yeah. New year, new me. Yes. Right. This is my new year now. Kate's going to write some resolutions for next week. Yeah, I actually should read them out. Yeah, we can do that. So next week's episode, New Year's resolutions.
Right. Well, we'll see you guys next week then.
Bye.